saw that someone was in need and I felt like I needed to help her. And obviously a boundary was crossed and I really never meant to cross that boundary at all. But because again,
Well, when you say that she needed help and you tried to help her, helping her turned into your taking advantage of her.
yes, and I didn't.
And yeah,
I understand.
um, okay.
Boundaries being crossed. Now, that is one way to put SAing a 12-year-old girl who was a family friend. It is unbelievable, but still, we are accustomed to seeing it. But what's unbelievable is that the district attorney who prosecuted this case, who took it all the way to a jury selection before they finally agreed on a plea deal, well, he wrote a letter on her behalf. You see, this is not a parole hearing. This is a record expungement hearing, a pardon hearing. She, a female Ch0m0, is asking to have her record expunged, and a district attorney wrote on her behalf. You won't believe the words that he put on paper about this case. Let's jump into another insane Connecticut pardon hearing.
At this time, you may explain to the board why you believe you are suitable for an absolute pardon.
First, I'd like to thank you for the time. I understand that this is a serious conviction. I think that I was just emotionally immature back then, and I've worked very hard to be better and be more emotionally mature. I am not dismissing what happened. I understand that this is not, an easy grant for you. I take full responsibility for what happened. I never meant to cause harm to anyone, the victim and the family. And I recognize that I have. And I'm just working very hard to make a future for myself and take care of my mom and further my career and education. Currently working and in school and trying to further my degree in healthcare to make more money and have a more stable income.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Ream. Attorney Salerno, do you have a statement that you'd like to make?
I think that the application that we sent in speaks for itself. I know that the board thoroughly reviews it. I appreciate that. I can just say that in my career, I've never seen or had a letter from the prosecuting authority who has been in support for somebody to receive a pardon. I think that it really kind of goes to show an insight, especially from somebody who was handling the case at the time, to support my clients. I think that no matter what we do today, my client fully is aware of the trauma that she's caused. Unfortunately, in the criminal realm, we have a saying, hurt people hurt people. And what we have now is a person who's identified that, is trying to best herself, is trying to move on from this, and is also doing everything she can to show the respect to not only the board, but to the families of the victim and to the victim themselves, leaving them be. No contact is had. There have been no further convictions. There have been no further interactions. And as the board is well aware, this is a sole incident. Approximately, the conviction is from 2011. The arrest is 2009. So this has been quite some time. So with that being said, I know the board doesn't want to hear any more from me. Please, any questions that you have for my client?
Thank you. So I did review the letter from the state's attorney, so we all did, and we do appreciate that comment, his comments. There is a injury to a child less than 17 conviction in New York. Is that stemming from the same offense?
Yes.
Okay. And
I'm sorry, there's something that we wanted to make sure that the board was aware, because it came up, my clients, actually, if I could, I'll let my client speak.
yes,
When I was watching the pre-hearing, the
the
pre-screening,
prescreen. Mm-hmm.
it was stated I'm off the registry, which is correct for Connecticut, but New York, because Connecticut had given me a conviction, I have a 20-year in New York. So I've done more than half of that already, but I'm still on in New York.
Okay. Yeah. Mr. Rodriguez, do you have any questions?
No, Madam Chair, I don't. My question was around that earlier charge, whether it was connected or not.
Thank you. Ms. Palmieri?
So, Ms. Reed, you did some counseling with, as a result of this conviction and the New York conviction?
Yeah, they went together.
Yeah. And you described yourself a number of times as being emotionally immature. Tell me, give me a little bit of insight that you've had about yourself and how you see yourself now as a more mature, emotionally more mature person in your decision making.
I understand, boundaries and handling situations in a much more mature manner. I know I come from abuse, and that's no excuse for my actions. And I think that really shaped my relationships as a young child. I didn't know how to navigate emotions or, boundaries. And I think that for the victim, I just wanted to help in any way I could. And I ended up hurting, and I didn't mean to. But now, looking back, I understand how to navigate relationships and emotional decisions.
Okay. How long were you in counseling?
The entire time I was on parole, which was about 3 years, and I continue to see a therapist now, just out of my own choice.
Okay. Okay. It was interesting. One of the letters that was submitted as a reference made a statement that you were innocent. So, as I was reviewing the application, I did feel that there was a little bit like you were sort of avoiding talking about the offense. So I did feel you were somewhat redeemed with your interview with the parole officer, because he seems to have gone through the details of the offense to gauge what your acceptance of responsibility, your role in it all, and you did agree with all the details
Right.
that the parole officer went through with you in the offense.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I have nothing further, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Palmieri. And Ms. Ream, I was along the same lines. When I received the letter from the state attorney's office, I was and he's like, well, she was just struggling. And I'm just like, I wonder if he would feel the same if this were a male opposed to a female. It's just it's interesting in how the wording, I'm a word kind of person, and they mean a lot to me. So with certain verbiage, I get a little perplexed because I'm just like, wait, what? So I'm interested in knowing, I heard you and both your attorneys say that hurt people, and this is true. So tell me some of the things that you believe that this victim may be experiencing as a result of your actions.
I think that she's might be struggling with her own sexual identity, possibly self-worth, because I know that I've struggled with that as well. And like I said, I know my actions don't change anything, and I know that I hurt her, and I did not mean to hurt them at all. It was never my intention, and I saw that someone was in need, and I felt like I needed to help her, and obviously a boundary was crossed, and I really never meant to cross that boundary at all. But because again,
Well, when you say that she needed help and you tried to help her, helping her turned into your taking advantage of her.
yes, and I didn't.
And yeah.
I understand.
Okay.
That was never my intention, and I know that it went that way, and I am truly, truly sorry for my actions and how they may have.
And have you heard any updates on how she's doing?
I have not.
And did you ever have an opportunity to express your remorse to her, the victim?
I have not. No, we have
Why
no.
don't you take that opportunity now?
I'm so sorry for causing hurting you and the family. The family had always meant so much to me, and I'm sorry that I let you down. I never meant to.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Sometimes people need that, just to hear, I'm sorry, and maybe that will make a difference in her life, you never know. But anyway, are there any objections to Ms. Ream receiving a full and absolute pardon?
No objection, Madam
No
Chair.
objection, Madam Chair.
May I move that Kristen Elizabeth Ream be granted a full and absolute pardon? Ms. Palmieri?
Aye.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Aye.
And my vote is aye, your pardon is granted. Congratulations and thank you, Attorney Salerno.
Thank you very much to the board.
What did we just watch? Now I'll break it down to you what we just watched. I'll just tell it to you. We saw a Ch0m0, a offender, someone who groomed a little one, then full on SA possible multiple times. When she was caught, she fought it in the courts for 2 years, took it all the way to jury selection, and then we assume that she took a plea deal. Now, she is no different than the male offenders of this nature that we see parole hearing time and time again. She is no different in nature. She is no different in accountability. The idea that she can sit here all these years later and say over and over and over again that I was trying to help. I didn't mean to hurt her. I didn't understand boundaries. I was emotionally immature. I never meant to cause harm. What? And if you had any, she was fake crying. She's a horrible fake crier. I mean, Amber Heard would look like an Academy Award winning actress compared to her. And then you have the DA, and this is what's so scary. This is what is so terrifying. When you have those who are put in charge, it is their profession. They made it their life goal to protect the communities that elect them into their position. And what do? They are so naive. They are so dumb, blind, uneducated, where they would actually write a letter on her behalf. Anybody who knows anything about Ch0m0s, about cockroaches, they know that this is an incurable disease. It's like, well, I wonder what the DA would think. Was it Miss Berry that said that? Miss Page? What would the if it was a man? Yeah. Although the sad truth is, you might expect the DA in the state of Connecticut to say the same thing over a man. It's insane. She did not commit the crime, and then she fought it in the courts for 2 years, calling her a liar, the victim a liar. And we know from the evidence they got, the idea that still today she can get a support letter, which one would only guess it's got to be a close relative. Is it her mother? Is it her father? Got a support letter saying that she's innocent. There is only one way that letter would exist, and that is if she today is saying that she's innocent. The ink has hardly dried. She is still a sex offender on the registry in the state of New York for another 10 years. And she gets pardoned? You don't think that future potential employers have a right to know what she did? We don't even know what degree she's getting. She's in college right now. Sir Richard came out of retirement, but to pull the articles on this, because I couldn't even, to figure it out, even the name and to my surprise, there's like 6 articles. You don't get that normally. This was because she took it to court. This thing made the news. I've seen some articles where it says the child was 11, some where it says she was 12. It was done multiple times. I guess it was done in multiple states. This attorney says it was one incident. I mean, how could you have a guilty verdict in 2 states if it wasn't done in both states? And she's in college now. Sir Richard said, yeah, probably preying on underage students there. What did she say she's getting her degree in? Was it in something medical? In in healthcare. I want to further my degree in healthcare. Would you want her to? What if she gets her degree which is what chomos do? They get their degree that gives them access to vulnerable potential victims. Did they even care to think about that? What if she's a pediatric nurse? Like, did that even cross their mind for 1 second? This is disturbing. This is dangerous. We saw clearly today someone who said all the wrong things over and over and over again. I never meant to cause harm. Hurt people hurt people. I was emotionally immature. I didn't understand boundaries. I just wanted to help the victim in any way I can. She still today is saying she wanted to help the victim. How do you utter those words? How is that helping? What are you saying? I saw someone who was in need and I tried to help her. The family always meant so much to me. I'm sorry I let them down. I never meant to. It's just beyond shocking. It is utterly disturbing that you would have a district attorney that would take her side, that you would have a pardon board agree to give her. She does not deserve a pardon. She is still on the bloody sex offender registry. This is insane. This is dangerous. This is madness. And this is why we do this. Now we're going to see another pardon hearing for someone who is in a similar situation. She allegedly, I mean, what it looked like, it wasn't officially documented that way, but kidnapped a child who was in her care. Very disturbing case. She wants to work with children again. Some of you may have seen this. About 8% of you have. If you have, feel free to skip to the next hearings. Unless you remember you haven't seen the next ones, I'll leave timestamps. Let's jump in.
They were trying to say that I was working on, because I was in grad school.
What did you do with the kid all day? That's it.
I worked on feeding. That's the honest to God truth. I worked on feeding. I should just call the mom
The
and tell her
question
that
was, why did you do it? Because the mom called you and you lied to the mother about the child giving the teacher a flower. You called the school and told them that the child was sick and pretended that the mom was right there when you were making the call.
because I was
You lied to
scared.
the police about taking the car to the car wash. The school, this is a 14-page arrest warrant on this case. And the school has a U-shaped drop-off. And your car was never seen in the drop-off that morning.
We are about to watch a Connecticut pardon hearing for a woman who was tasked with taking a special needs kid to school, and then she was meant to stay in the school with this special needs child, a 4-year-old. But she never did that. She took the 4-year-old back home and then fabricated an entire day texting mom saying what a great day her child is having. Now, here's the crazy thing. She is here today, 7 years after the incident, 3 years after leaving her probationary period, asking for a pardon. Why? Because she wants her job back. She wants to work with children again. So it's up to the pardon board to protect its constituency, to protect the community, to protect future children, to say one thing. Maybe you should look in a different line of work. Will they do that? Let's find out.
If you can please state your name for the record.
Tasha Flockhart.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Flockhart, may we ask you some questions?
I had something I wanted to say if I could, or if you
Yes,
prefer
please,
just
Liz.
ask. Okay. I really appreciate you taking the time to hear me today. My name is Tasha Flockhart, and I'm here to respectfully ask for pardon. I take full responsibility for the decisions that led to my convictions in 2019, which resulted in 2 misdemeanors, custodial interference in the second degree, and making a false statement in the second degree. I fully understand the seriousness of these offenses, and I carry the weight of them every day. For the past 7 years, I've been committed to improving myself so that I make wiser decisions in the future. I've been able to do this with the help of family, friends, church, and therapy. The company I work for has given me the opportunity to participate in volunteer work. One experience in particular, helping at a back-to-school program, moved me deeply and revitalized my passion for working with children. That moment inspired me to start the process of going back to school for my LPC and also going back for my pardon. I'm requesting this pardon because I regret the choices I made, and I know what I did was wrong. I wish I had done so many things differently, and if I were faced with the same situation today, I would have called the parents to let them know their child had had an accident in the car, and I would have taken responsibility for having a clean set of clothing in the car. I would have responded very differently. And I'm truly sorry to everyone involved, especially the parents, because no parent should ever have to go any amount of time not knowing where their child is. I let a lot of people down, and I wish I could take it all back, but I can't. All I can do is make sure I've learned from my mistakes and continue to seek therapy, guidance from church and people around me, and to push to be better than I was the day before. Before all this happened, I'd always been very cautious about making the right decisions, and I'd always taken the time to decide what to do to avoid making wrong decisions but from this, I learned about myself, how I respond under pressure. I have learned even when stressed, scared, or embarrassed, I need to take the time to think about my actions and how they affect others. My hope is to get the chance to get back to contributing to society in ways I know I'm capable. Moving forward, I am committed to a life of service, honesty, and continued growth. I understand this board does not take these decisions lightly, and I do not take this opportunity for granted. I'm truly grateful for the chance to be heard, and I thank you sincerely for your time and consideration. Thank you.
Mr. Pohl, any questions?
Madam Chair, that was laid out for me rather well. Ms. Flockhart is doing very well with employment. It's obvious that she's remorseful for what happened in this case and that she characterizes this offense appropriately. As such, I don't have any questions and I don't have an objection to this pardon.
Ms. Berry?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Ms. Flockhart, and all of that, you still didn't say what you were doing with the kid all day.
So just say that part.
Yeah, I want to know what were you doing with her all day that you could not take her to school, call the school to tell the school she's sick and she's not coming. Then when they asked you if the daughter went to school, you said, yes, she did. Like it's just so bizarre.
Yes. So normally the nanny would take the child to school.
I know all
Um,
about that. I just want to
okay.
know, what did you do with this child while
Well, I
you
did
had
take,
her?
I took her to the school, but she had an accident in the car. I didn't have a change of clothing, which I was supposed to have in my car at all times. So I took her back to my house, and it wasn't all day, so I don't know where that came from.
All day is from the time that you were supposed to drop her off at school until the end of the day when the mother called you and said
No.
she had your paycheck. It was, so when whoever went to go pick the kid up from school said that the child wasn't there.
Yes, yes. So
And that was all day. You had her from, I wrote down the times. No, I asked me from 8:11 in the morning until 1:56.
I don't know where the time came from, because what happened was the nanny texted me in the morning. This was before 12, so I don't know where the 1:15 comes from. Maybe when I dropped her off to the mom, but
Not 1:15, not, you're Miss Blocker, I think you're focusing on the wrong thing. What did you do with the kid all day?
So I took her back to my house to have her changed, and then I honestly, they were trying to say that I was working on, because I was in grad school.
What did you do with the kid all day? That's it.
I worked on feeding. That's the honest to God truth. I worked on feeding.
And so I thought I read in your application that you said, I should have said I was exhausted. I was a full-time student. Did you not sleep? Like what, I just don't understand.
You mean during that time, or?
Yes, during that time.
No, I did not sleep. I did not study. I did not do anything for me. I shouldn't have been there. I should have taken her back to school. I should have called the mom. I should have done so many things differently. But I 100% was working with the child on feeding. Not on the level that I would have if I was at the school or if I was at the family's house.
Okay, so let's just say this. So once you got to your house and she had the accident, you changed her clothes. Why didn't you bring her back home then? Why didn't you go back to the house and work on the feedings? Why did you take your car, it says, even, to get cleaned out in the car seat and all this stuff? And why such an elaborate excuse? I just feel that it was all for nothing. And I understood that the parents may have been a little bit aggressive or not, it's their kid though. I would have behaved the same way. My kid is missing. Where's my kid? So I'm just not understanding why. I don't understand. That's the long and short of it. What is this conviction in your application from Iowa? You wrote in your application that you were convicted in Iowa and Nebraska.
I had a speeding ticket, and I had 2 speeding tickets. And in Connecticut, in New York, if you take it to the court and plead innocent, then usually what you can do is pay a fine for a charity of some sort. So that's what I thought, but it's very different there. So then what made it worse was I missed my court date. So then it became a warrant. So that day that I was supposed to be in court, all of a sudden I was like, I better call and check in. And then they told me that I had a warrant for arrest. So then I turned myself in. That's what that was.
So were you trying to find a new place to live? What was the purpose of your being in different states?
That's where my family is.
Oh, okay. So who's in Iowa?
Well, actually,
your family?
My family is in Iowa and Nebraska, and they're right there.
Okay. Okay. And so are you in Arizona by yourself now, or Arkansas?
Arkansas. Yes, I'm by myself in Arkansas.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I also read, sorry, in your submission that you're bad at your job, which is why you want to go back to doing something that you enjoy doing. And honestly, while I can appreciate that, I think that every concerned parent who wants someone to work with their child, they really do want to trust that that person has their child's best interest at heart. And to go a millisecond without knowing where my kid is, I would absolutely go back crap crazy. So I just wanted to put that out there. And this, even if, regardless of what happens here today, even if you are granted a pardon, there are no guarantees that people aren't going to ask about this. You know what I mean? So Thank you for
I know.
answering my questions.
Okay, so Ms. Flockhart, my colleague wanted to know what? I want to know why.
Why I did what I did?
Yeah.
Well, I was working like 60 hours a week, so I was exhausted. I was in grad school. It's actually the last week of my finals. I mean, if I could do so many things differently, I would have set myself up better for success. But even if I didn't do any of that and I got to that moment, I should have just called the mom. I should just
Right.
call the mom
The
and told her
question
that
was, why did you do it? Because the mom called you and you lied to the mother about the
Mhm.
child giving the teacher a flower.
Mhm.
You called the school and told them that the child was sick and pretended that the mom was right there when you were making the call.
Because I was
You lied to
scared.
the police about taking the car to the car wash. The school, this is a 14-page arrest warrant on this case. And the school has a U-shaped drop-off, and your car was never seen in the drop-off that morning. So there's all this questionable stuff where you were caught in your lies and you just dug in deeper and deeper with more lies. And, that goes to character for me. Like,
Mhm.
and trying to understand if you're exhausted, wouldn't the easy thing to do change the child's clothes and take her to school?
But no, that's I think why I didn't think more. But that's not why I did what I did. What I did honestly was because I messed up.
But I'm trying to understand, why did you mess up?
I should have had a change of clothing in the car. That was gonna be a problem. So I should have just not cared about any of that and just called the mom. That's what I should have done. But the reason that I chose to take her to my house was because I knew I had a change of clothing so I could change her there. Then I was just basically
Okay, I
scared.
read about you
my
being
decision.
afraid that the mother would be upset that the child had an accident. And then I read that you told the police that the mom didn't want you to change the child around others.
Mhm.
And then you seemed to find a change of clothes in your trunk at one point.
No,
So-
that was no. That was at home. That's why I took her to my house, because I had a change of clothing at my house. I'm supposed to have a change of clothing in my car.
I read it.
At all times,
All of that.
yes.
I guess, so are you incapable of admitting when you're wrong? I mean, why would you compound the bad situation with more and more lies to the school, to the police, to the parents? Like, why?
But in the end, I told them everything that happened. So I did. I mean, the
You
only
don't
thing
get
I
absolved because you came clean in the end. I'm trying to understand, in the middle of it, you couldn't help yourself. You just kept making the situation worse with more and more lies to more and more people.
how did I do that though? That's why I don't understand, because
The mother
only time-
called and asked about the child giving the teacher a flower, and you lied to the mother about the teacher's reaction to the flower. You called the school and lied to them and told them the child was sick. You never notified the parents that you were keeping the child at your house. And then we read about the child watching videos while she was at your house. So, and then the police asked you, and they went to the car wash and they went through hours of video footage. You never took the car to the car wash. So,
Okay.
this is what I'm trying to understand is your character. And is it just deeply flawed? Like, why would you, responsible for someone else's child, make such bad decisions and then not interrupt yourself to say, I got to stop, I got to get this kid to school, I got to call the parent and tell them where she is, any of that?
Yes, I got in too deep at that point. But I thought, when you were asking the question initially, I thought you meant from the start to finish of the whole process. But when you're asking individually why I didn't just stop and do what I needed to do at any given point. And honestly, the more I went in, the more scared I was and the more I'd messed up.
But you didn't appreciate the fact that you were just getting in deeper, you were making it worse with not, calling a
No,
halt to it all?
No, I did. I did, but just the
But
more,
it didn't inform your decision-making.
well, there's also some things like from my past and some therapy. That's one thing that I'm really working on now.
That's great.
And I have been working on is, like I said earlier, like I've always been good at making decisions, but I haven't been in this situation like that.
Okay.
And I had to find out, why was that my response? Why did I deal with it that way?
Okay.
And I found there's just like, I have a fight or flight. I had a fight or flight from things that have happened in my past or what have you. And just being embarrassed, like made me, and it doesn't make sense. I understand now it doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense to me now. I just know that would never happen again, because now I know, like, no matter how much embarrassed I am, no matter how scared I am, there's a right way and there's a wrong way of doing things. And at the time,
I'm glad you have that insight. And I appreciate, the work that you're doing on yourself. I encourage you to continue it. You've only been off supervision 3 years for this, and you want to get back into the field where you would have similar responsibilities. And I am not there yet. So I will not be voting to grant you a pardon today, but I'm going to move to my colleagues. Ms. Berry, where are you?
You know, I honestly do believe Ms. Flockhart that she was afraid, and she really did make a number of poor decisions. I appreciate that she is working on herself and she's trying to gain a better understanding of, why she behaves in this way. And to me, that does show some degree of growth. Being able to identify the source, I think, is key. While we may not understand it, I really do hope that she continues gaining that better understanding so that she never does this to another child. And I hear her saying, I'm sure this was traumatic for her. And thank God the child was probably clueless about what was going on. This was all so crazy. And I honestly think that whether or not we grant a pardon here today, I don't think that she will be able to really, not anytime soon, go about her life without having to mention that this occurred or transpired. Or so I honestly, I know she's still in school, she's still trying to work on herself and stuff. So I would support her pardon, as much as it pains me as a mom. I think that this was a lesson well learned. So,
and I guess part of what I struggle with is she wasn't 22 or 23. She was 38.
38, I know.
And
but trauma's trauma, and it shows itself up it manifests itself in many different ways. That doesn't justify a thing, by the way. But I do understand.
So in the matter of Tasha Flockhart, there's a motion to grant a full and absolute pardon. Mr. Pohl?
Aye.
Ms. Berry?
Aye.
My vote is nay. So the pardon is granted by majority.
thank you.
Tell me that this pardon board is not dangerous. I mean, tell me that this is not insane. This is madness to me. At the time, a 38-year-old woman who has one job, to take a special needs child to school, and then she doesn't. Then she takes her home, and then she fabricates a lie. And she denies every instant of it. The police have to investigate her. Frankly, I think she is lucky she didn't get kidnapping felony charges. Through the process, her defense argued with the judge and said, hey, this is, take it easy on her. And the judge said, no, we need to protect future children. This needs to be on her record. We'll go through the facts of the case. And you actually have, remember, Barry saying, well, it's a trauma, and manifests itself in strange ways as a defense. And it's like, who cares? Even you want to buy the story that everyone has trauma, and she, she retracted back into that trauma, and it's like, who cares? That's not relevant here. Do you want to understand why someone would do that? Great, study it all you want. Come up with your philosophies and your theories and write a book about it. This, though, is about protecting future children. A mother, a father has not only the right, but the responsibility, the need to know that if they are signing up their child with a therapist, that this has happened. You cannot expunge this from someone's record. As a father of 3 with small children who I take to therapists after school, if I found out that one of those therapists had this history, I would not take my child to that therapist. My child is not your experiment. She is working again in this field. It says it on her profile for what she does for work. There's not a lot of articles online about her. I'll read one, but it would take just one, probably not a lot of money, probably a few $100s with one of those services to take what's on the front page and put it on page 10 where it disappears. Really wouldn't take much work at all because there's not a lot of news on this. But this felt to me like one of those stories where it was just one moment away from the child disappearing forever, because that's how these stories begin. And I didn't see any honesty. I took the child home. And by the way, I'm not going to falter for not saying the child's name. That's a legal thing. They can't say the name. I took the child home to study. But I was feeding the child all day. And that's too, you can't have it both ways. First of all, no one takes a 4-year-old child home when you need to study. That's like that's no. You ever have a 4-year-old child around, a 4-year-old child with special needs? Good luck trying to get some studying in. It's not that I don't believe her story. I believe that she probably does have a lot of issues, and she had, but I don't believe she really worked it out. I felt that she was still dodging even here in the pardon hearing. At 38 years old, this is something maybe like a 17-year-old would do, a 16-year-old would do, where it's like, oh, I'm in the pants, I can't change her, I'm going to get in trouble, I'll just take her home. And then lie. That person, see, again, it's not about why she did it. That's not our business. It's not about if she's worked on herself and has done insight and therapy. That's not our business. One job. She came in here. She didn't say, I want to pardon so I could, improve my working possibilities as a programmer, which I started to do. No, she came here and said, I want to work with children again. No, you can't. You lost that opportunity. We can't take a chance on you. There's something unbelievably wrong with you. We just have to say no. Even if I want, it's our job to say no. Why does she come before every parent she might work with and their child? If I was a dog walker and I took an owner's dog and then disappeared for a day and lied about where I took the dog, I could imagine that there would be a pardon boards that would not give that person their dog walking license back. This isn't so hard to wrap one's mind around. This is pretty simple stuff. And this is why we cover it, because you got to call out insanity when you see it. This is insane. Again, this is not about understanding. This is not about forgiveness. This is not about this is about protecting potential future victims. And where there's smoke, there's fire, there's red signals. This person really should be working with children? This was written in 2018 when a judge said, when she was fighting for some programs, and they said, no, so let's just go through it really quick. A speech therapist accused of bringing a Stanford child to her home instead of taking the little girl to preschool without telling the children's parents was denied participation in a diversionary program for the first time offenders that could have wiped the woman's criminal charges away, right? So the pardon board is overturning the judge's wisdom here. And this is recent. This is like 30 years ago. She just finished her probationary period. Stanford judge Richard Comfort said he would not allow Tasha, 37, of Nebraska to participate in an accelerated rehabilitation program, and she remains charged of unlawful restraint, interference with police, and false statement. Unfortunately, we live in a world where I see more and more children who are mistreated, Comfort said. Flockhart and her attorney, Tigerson, during a hearing in Stanford courthouse Thursday morning. It's a matter if serious the application is denied. Youth Bureau Sergeant Joseph Kennedy said the case on May 1st, when Flockhart was being paid to bring a 4-year-old girl with special needs to her preschool and assisted her during the day. After bringing the child to school that morning, Flockhart began sending texts to the girl's mother, telling her how the little girl was doing at school. But in reality, Flockhart had taken the child to her own Hope Street apartment for studying for an upcoming exam to complete her UConn master's degree program. By coincidence, a nanny working for the family showed up at the girls' school a little after 1 p.m. to pick her up for a dental appointment. The family was advised that the child never came to school, Kennedy said, and all those text messages about what the child had done in school and how the child had interacted with the teacher had given and she even made, like, think about this, to even make these things up, there's so much more twisted and messed upness, red flags, sirens. She goes on to, she's texting mom, making things up. She said that that her child gave a flower to the teacher. Kennedy said that the police department objected to Flockhart getting a program because she misled police where the child was and would not tell them what happened. The child was not harmed during the incident. Assistant State's Attorney Daniel Cummings also argued against following Flockhart into the program, talking about the girl's mother, who became upset after finding out her child was missing. She literally became so ill she could not see. My Mandoo would have gotten so ill, this would have made her not see as well. And it would have made any, like, you can't even begin. And the trust that you lose, and could they ever have anyone even take their child to school again? Tigerson said Flockhart compounded her bad decision to take the child home by not be forthcoming. Flockhart, a native of the Midwest, has moved to Nebraska, where she now works as a meat processor and is not working with children any longer. He said news articles written about Flockhart spread the allegations against her around the internet for the foreseeable future. They say this like as if there are internet articles everywhere, news flash, blah, 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 blah. There's nothing, by the way. Like, there's 3 articles. This is it. This is the most substantive article that I found. So, like, this is the defense, like, saying, and that's it. They just expunged her record so she could work with children. That's madness to me. I think it's madness to probably the majority of people watching this. And again, it goes. I think it just goes without saying that this is the absolute one of the most insane pardons that we have seen. Because you do not have a right to strip parents of their right to know. And you can't rely on just a news article. That stuff can disappear. It wouldn't be hard.
So Mr. Smith is here with you. Mr. Smith's application really shows his growth from an angry young man who was a gangster carried weapons, dealt drugs, and his transformation through mentors who helped him, through finding God himself, through a lot of self-reflection and introspection, so that he is now a responsible and committed father who spends a lot of time ministering to the needs of others and helping them take a better path and find more positive futures. I did want to speak to you briefly about his employment and income situation. He has been receiving SSDI, Social Security Disability, since 2019 due to work injuries. He had a fractured neck and injured back and legs, and also PTSD and anxiety. But he has been trying to get off of disability. He at one point had a job with LAS that did parking that he could not maintain because it required him to be standing all day, and his body with his injuries could not do that. But he's doing a lot of important work that is currently unpaid. And I think you'll see that in his reference letter from John, talking about his important role as a caregiver to their son, Misha, as well as religious ministering that he does on a regular basis that he can tell you about that is not paid. He is hoping, he's working with John and the family and an organization called GT Independence, applying to be a paid caregiver for Misha. And if that is approved, then his ultimate goal will be to be able to do that work full time and be able to get off of Social Security disability. So I know there was a question about that came up at the pre-screen, and I wanted to give that explanation. I wanted to tell you that I was not the person who worked with him on submitting this application. It was a colleague of mine who's no longer working here. And so in preparation for this hearing, I spent a lot of time talking to him, getting to know him so that I knew who this person was and what it was about. And I've been really impressed with the transformation and who he is today in ways that I don't know that fully come through in the application. So I wanted to ask him to share with you a story he shared with me when we were talking about anger management and what he's learned over time in a recent incident. So I'd ask him to share that story with you, anything else that he wants to tell you about his journey, and then answer any questions that you may have. So Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Sir, can you please state your name for the record?
Ch0m0 Smith.
Thank you very much, sir.
Go ahead briefly, sir.
First of all, good morning, and thank you all for allowing me to come and speak to you today. I do really appreciate it. I don't want to do too much, but I know I had a very shaded past. I was a young kid who didn't have very good guidance. My father was in and out of prison for my entire life, as my mother. So I didn't have really good examples. But over time, I've learned and grown in God. I found God, ironically, at my daughter's christening. I used to, before that, I couldn't stand the church or whatever, but I went to support my daughter in getting Christian, and that day something happened. Can't really explain it, but I appreciate it now. I was sharing with Amy about a situation that happened where God has a way of bringing things to your face, where I was having a conversation with somebody about something, and then it happened. I ran into a guy that I had did something to in the past. Like I had did some very bad things to him in the past, and he was with some other guys, and the guy subsequently he hit me, and the person I used to be would have reacted to that situation very badly. It would have been probably a big situation, but in this circumstance, I didn't respond in that way, which surprised even me. What I did do, however, is I spoke to the guy, and what I said to him was that, I know I did some things in the past. I can't change that. If you need to hit me in order for you to feel better about yourself, I'm okay with that. But as adults, we should be being examples to these kids that are following you, because they weren't our age, they were younger. So they're following your example. We both done a lot of time in and out of jail. When does it stop? And, he didn't hit me again, but he did call me a couple of names. and then he left. And I just thank God that it ended up like that, you know. And I'm going to continue my path.
So, Mr. Smith, may I ask you some questions now?
Yes.
Okay. So what we have is a 12-year criminal history with 10 convictions and 1 violation of probation. Your last conviction was in 2011, and you've been off supervision about 2.5 years. You have 4 drug charges and 1 gun possession, and then the sexual offense in 2011. I have all that correct, sir?
Somewhat. So one of the drug convictions wasn't actually, is not even supposed to be there. I think there's a paper in there that, because they charged me twice with the same case.
Well, you were charged with possession and sales. So, but that's not what actually concerns me.
Okay.
So tell me about any kind of treatment program you participated in while you spent 10 years on probation for the illegal sexual contact.
So there's a requirement while you're on probation to go through intensive treatment. So I attended that. From 2013 to, I want to say 2015 or 16, around there.
What
And
agency did you do that work with?
that was with the Connections.
Okay.
Um,
How did that program help you?
so that program teaches you a lot about.
Specifically, I don't want to know what the content of the program is. I'm familiar with it. What did you get out of the program?
But so, all right. So when I say you, I'm really speaking about me. I'm sorry. So what that program taught me was about things that I may have not been aware of. One is that I tended to not listen to people as much when I was younger. And I acted very impulsively, which led to the conviction in 2011. I also learned that these things, they don't just stop with you. Like if you commit an offense, it can come back to you in different ways. I was explaining to my attorney how I have a daughter now. Well, I have 3 kids, but it was explained to me how my actions can directly affect her. And the last thing that I would want to do is hurt my child. And then it made me think about my actions in this situation for me not really assessing the situation based upon where I was at that time in my life. And I was very ignorant. I can't change that fact. I regret it deeply.
I actually think, Mr. Smith, that it was more selfish than ignorant. You were a 29-year-old man, and this victim was 14. And you said in your application that you didn't do your research. I mean, I think that age gap would make a lot of things very apparent.
Can I explain that?
You and it's just concerning to me, and I didn't read and I haven't heard anything by way of remorse or an apology that you might offer to the victim.
So I am very remorseful and apologetic to the victim. The age gap, yes, there is an age gap. The circumstances surrounding the situation was that
okay, you're going far afield, because my question to you was anything you wanted to say by way of an apology or an expression of remorse. And I don't want to hear excuses. I'm
very apologetic. The reason why I said something more is because the way that it was just painted was as if I knew that she was 14 years old.
Well, as an adult male, you have a responsibility to know before you get in bed with somebody or put your hands on them.
That's what research would be.
What you're dealing with.
That's
Yeah.
why I said that I should have did more research because
Mhm.
she
Okay,
did
so
have
what
her
do you
own
think
apartment.
what do you think the impact was on this 14-year-old?
After treatment, I know that she was affected very badly. She went through a lot of things as a result of my actions. And I wish I can turn back the hands of time. I'm very apologetic. I did run into her one day when I came out of jail. She was on the bus. I told my probation officer about it, and I did apologize to her. She apologized to me, and I got off the bus. And I told my probation officer about it. That was in 2014.
I hope that wasn't traumatic for her. So you want to work for GT Independence. What do you need in order to be able to become a paid caregiver?
So with GT Independence, they're still stuck on my background. I've been doing work with the Moffleys for the last 3 years, all unpaid. It's part of, I guess, a service that I like to provide as a way of giving back because I've taken so much from the communities.
Yeah, I did read about your work at the food pantry and the shelter. So what's standing in your way of becoming a paid caregiver is your criminal history. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Ms. Berry, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Pohl?
I have no questions, Madam Chair.
Okay. So the circumstances of the convictions are concerning. The firearm and the sexual offense involving such a young child. He served 25 months for that and 10 years of probation, which he completed in 2023. And he completed whatever obligation he had on the sex offender registry as well as the treatment. And I would be willing to grant a pardon. Ms. Berry?
As would I.
Mr. Pohl?
I agree.
So in the matter of Torrance Smith, there is a motion to grant a full and absolute pardon. Ms. Berry?
Aye.
Mr. Pohl?
Aye.
My vote is aye, the pardon is granted.
Thank you so much.
Let me remind everyone that this is not a parole hearing. This is not, even sitting in front of the judge saying, please don't sentence me to a certain number of years. This is a pardon hearing. This is an expungement hearing. This is a hearing for a man with a 12-year criminal history, 10 convictions, a violation of probation. He's only been on supervision for 2.5 years, and he sexually assaulted a child in 2011. And what does he say? He says in his pardon hearing that he admits to committing a crime when he confronted his child victim in a bus and had her apologize to him. You really can't make this stuff up. He comes to the hearing and he says, I had no idea how old she was. Then he goes on to say that she apologized to me and I apologized to her. Can you imagine how terrified she would have been when he approached her in the bus? And if you think even for 1 second that it was a coincidence, I got a bridge to sell you. Not only that, but it is his duty when he is out. If he sees her in a bus, he needs to turn around and walk away. And the idea that he's not even admonished for that by the pardon board, but instead is rewarded without him admitting guilt, without him admitting that he's a predator, with him still sitting there saying, I didn't know how old she was. She had to apologize to me. And here he is telling you how he is preaching in his church, how he's volunteering, and how he's taking care of a child now. He's sitting here on government subsidies, on whatever it is, because he can't hold a job. But don't worry, I'll get certified as a caretaker. Give me a part. What has he done? You know, it's crazy. We know in Connecticut how light and pathetic they are on crime. Someone with such a long criminal history would have gotten such a short amount of time. It seems like he got probation. I don't even understand it. There is a news article here that I'm looking at, June 17, 2010. I'm not going to show it because it's 8,000 ads and it's just ridiculous. Maybe I'll take a screenshot. He was 29 years old. He was arrested Monday by the Violent Fugitive Task Force. This wasn't even this was the Violent Fugitive Task Force. Captain Ronald Smith said Torrance Smith was found at his place of employment, which was a restaurant in New Haven, Connecticut. The arrest stems from a sexual assault complaint. This isn't even like grooming and, this is a sexual assault complaint. That was filed at the Hamden Police Headquarters. The investigation revealed that Torrance Smith allegedly had sexual relations on several occasions with the hand girl who's a minor. And he comes here and he tells the pardon board, I didn't know how old she was. And what do? They gift him a pardon. This is messed up. Pardons should not, in my opinion, be handed out like hotcakes. You gotta earn it. What would have been? It would they could have said, "Look, you're not being honest. You want him preaching to kids in church. You want him to someone who's not admitting to the pardon board what he did, who's still blaming the victim. You want to send that message to the world that that's okay? How about you really think he's changed? You really think he's done a good job? How about admonish him on what he did, explain what he did wrong? Or he even had an attorney, he even couldn't articulate it properly. And then say, come back and reapply in 2 years. It's madness. It's madness. It's dangerous. It's Connecticut. I wonder how many of Connecticut citizens know that this is happening in their state. It's insane.
Thank you for this opportunity. I will be brief. 20 years ago, Mr. Ely sexually molested his 14-year-old stepdaughter. Having 4 daughters himself, he wishes he could take the moment back and apologizes to her for what he did to her. He actually repeated exactly what was done to him when he was 8 years old. He was sexually molested by a family member and a neighborhood neighbor, a next door neighbor. He kept this a secret and went to jail for a very long time, not just for this crime, but also for other crimes. He was able to accept and realize that what he was doing was what he had suffered. Presently, he is working and hopes that his stepdaughter is doing well, is remorseful for what he did, and is profusely sorry for what he did. He is requesting a pardon because he hopes to open a construction company in which he hopes to hire sexual offenders and other offenders and share with them what he went through. It's no longer a secret. He is moving on and doing well. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, can you please state your name for the record?
Tariq Ely.
Thank you.
All right, Mr.
Thank
Ely,
you.
is there something you want to say, or can we move into questions?
Yes, I have a small statement. I would like to say thank you for this opportunity and to address y'all. I am aware of my crimes I committed and the convictions that follow. I am truly sorry for the harm and pain I have caused my victim. I am remorseful and embarrassed for my actions. I was her stepfather who was supposed to protect her, but instead I caused her pain. And I wish I was able to take her pain back. I pursue my career and goals and contribute positivity to my community. Upon my last and final release of incarceration, I was able to rebuild my life for myself. I was able to gain employment, be a positive person in my children's life. I also gave back to my community doing voluntary work for my mom's church by helping out with food share. I also do a back to school book bag drive for less fortunate children. I am committed to being a responsible and productive member of society. I have been working diligently to rehabilitate myself, and I am confident that I can make amends for my past actions. This pardon will allow me to move forward and make fresh starts, and for that, I am extremely grateful. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Ely.
welcome.
Ms. Berry?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Ely, I appreciate the statement, and I appreciate your acceptance of responsibility. The one question that stood out to me in this application, and I probably asked a lot of other individuals, you said that you yourself was a victim of sexual abuse. And so I want to know, having suffered that yourself, what do you think your biggest regret is in terms of causing that victim the same pain that you've endured?
It took a very, very, very toll on my life and also her life. I was in her life as supposed to be a father figure, and I caused her pain that I endured pain, but didn't know how to deal or express.
No, I understand. I understand that. Let me be a little more specific. The pain that you felt, has that pain gone away?
No, I still deal with it to this day. I still do.
So having known that as a grown man now, that you're still battling your abuse, how do you think that has impacted her life and the things that she's battling? How do you think it's impacted her?
I think it impacted a great deal. From emotional, maybe financial, maybe
She doesn't trust men. Maybe
yes,
she doesn't want to be alone with a
I'm
man.
in a stable relationship, and
Yeah.
I took that trust from her.
Yeah.
And I'm truly, definitely grateful. I am truly grateful that I caused her that pain.
Okay, you're regretful that you've caused her that pain.
Yes.
Tell me why this assault third that you had in 2010, where you called it a toxic relationship. Explain to me what it's my understanding that you're currently involved with a girlfriend, right?
Yes, at that time,
Did you had any other altercations where you can't resolve conflict verbally?
excuse me?
Have you ever had any other instances where you could not resolve your conflicts verbally?
No, that was the only one.
Okay. And were there other instances with this victim of
No.
domestic violence?
No.
And so why this day did you hit her?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Why on this day did you hit this victim?
I actually, and it repeats, but I take full responsibility. I did not physically put my hands on her. I did grab her shirt, but I never laid a fist, an open hand, or a closed hand on her. She damaged my property, and I did not have to deal with my anger. I went to her home, her residence, and I damaged her property. And it was a little physical altercation, but I take full responsibility for that situation.
I'm not sure if you answered my question. I appreciate your accepting responsibility. So I guess your answer is that you allowed your emotions to get overwhelmed and it became physical.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Mr. Pohl, any questions?
I have no questions, Madam Chair.
All right. So, Mr. Ely, you have 10 convictions that span 18 years and two violations of probation. You served 4 periods of incarceration. The last was in 2014, and that was your last involvement with the criminal justice system. For the 2007 sex assault 4th degree, you were on the registry for 10 years. You finished that in 2017 and you completed treatment. What I read of the account sounded like you were using drugs as an excuse for why you violated this child. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. And the drug was?
Marijuana mixed with PCP.
Okay. The PCP part is what we didn't have. Okay. Very serious, very damaging substance to abuse. You know, so I would add to, you know, the impact on the child. You know, I'm sure that there was a great deal of fear because somebody on PCP can act rather erratically and aggressively. So that in and of itself is concerning. So you've been hired as a flagger. When was that?
April of this year.
Okay, how's it going?
It's going very good.
All right, we're hitting hot season, so
Yeah, I got sunburned not too long ago.
Uh-huh. All right, well, be careful out there in the heat. You know, you have 4 daughters yourself.
Yes.
Did the crime in 2007 affect your relationship with your daughters?
No, because they were still young at the time. So they didn't know what was going on at the time.
And you were allowed to have contact with them while you were serving the 10 years of probation?
Not at the beginning. That's why I violated my probation with the technical violation. But after my release in 2014, I continued doing the sexual offenders classes, and then I was gaining access to be allowed to be around my children at the home.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Who explained to your children what your crime was?
Their mom.
Okay. All right. So, Ms. Berry, where are you with Mr. Ely?
Madam Chair, I would support Mr. Ely's application for an absolute pardon. I think that he has done some positive things in his life to turn it around. He has some good insight about his crimes. He's expressed remorse and accepted responsibility, participated in treatment, all the things that we would have liked to see. So I would support his application.
All right, so in the matter of Tariq Ely, there is a motion to grant a full and absolute pardon. Mr. Pohl?
Aye.
Ms. Berry?
Aye.
My vote is aye, the pardon is granted.
Well, as you can see, Connecticut, they love their children. They love protecting their children. They love protecting their constituency. It's a great state to live. Everybody It might be like the highest taxes in the country. It might be cold in the winter and hot in the summer. But if you commit a crime in Connecticut, you can have your record expunged. Come on and move here, ladies and gentlemen, Mandalorians. It's a state that just keeps on giving. If you have children, though, you might want to be careful. You might want to be careful what teachers you hire to take care of them, what church you send them to, maybe even the book drive that the organizers are giving the book drive for children, who they might be, or maybe the construction company that is hired with sex offenders from a former sex offender who now has his record expunged. He literally does the most, I think, I personally hate it when someone says, "Oh, I was essayed as a child, and that's why I went married a woman for a 14-year-old daughter, the same age as my daughters, and essayed her." Then it comes out that he's on PCP. Don't you love how he tries to manipulate it? He said, "Oh, marijuana with some PCP." Like, like, he's doing the devil's lettuce with a tiny bit of PCP on the side. He's like, because it's mixed, it's not so bad. Can you even imagine? Can you? I'm just. It's like, and again, the weak Connecticut DA, the weak judges there. You only have to register for 10 years, which is madness. 14-year-old stepdaughter. 10-year registration. I know, because he's a low risk to reoffend. Already, and then he violates his probation because apparently he was seeing his daughters, who's not allowed to see. Calls it a technical violation. We've seen those revocation hearings so many times, which is also manipulation of the system. They don't, it's like, yeah, you just essayed your daughter. Now you get out of prison on parole, and then you go and you're hanging out with your daughters unsupervised. And it's just a technical violation. It's messed up. I mean, it can't just be, remember, these are pardons, these are expungements. People have a right to know, a need to know, that he essayed his stepdaughter. They don't do they don't ask questions, they don't dig in, they don't say, really, what, how long did it happen? What, like, there are just so many terrifying red flags in this case. I don't need to tell you about it. I don't have information to share on this case. It's interesting. It's not like, you would think it's not like a super common name, but it doesn't. Actually, yeah, anything with Tariq, yeah, just it's a Ely. It's not like a common name, is it? But I can't find anything. So I don't have anything else to add. This was all from the same docket. This docket was like 5 hours long. It had more. It had more sex offenders getting expunged. A lot of them. It had some. There was a guy who shot his pregnant girlfriend. I was thinking of playing it. He shows up to the pardon hearing and he says, "I don't know, a gun. It went off. Then I found out that she was shot. Oh man, it was so bad. We were bad for each other." And that was literally how he described him shooting his pregnant girlfriend. And they pardoned him too. It's really a bunch of people who just take no accountability and still get the gift of a pardon. And it's an agenda in Connecticut. It's an agenda to clean people's records. And I'm all for it. I think every state should offer it. Not every state does. But there should be some basics. And taking accountability is one of them. And if you harm a child, like to be a to want a pardon so you can work with children again after could have, I think, been charged with kidnapping a child who was under your care, and then get a pardon so you can work with children is insane. To essay a child and blame the victim and get a pardon is insane. To essay your stepdaughter so that you can go and then get part. It's all insane. It's all insane.
Mr.
Thank
Cummings,
you.
please state your name for the record.
Richard Cummings, Richard Leroy Cummings Jr.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to address the board. As you have seen from his application, Mr. Cummings, despite his disabilities of a learning disorder and a cognitive disability, he has shown himself to be a much loved and dedicated member of the community at Fellowship Place and beyond. He's a dedicated, dependable, and responsible worker, a loving and caring partner, a good and loyal friend. He's learned skills and strategies that have helped him transform from a lonely and haunted person to a loving, connected partner and an engaged member of the therapeutic community for people with mental disabilities at Fellowship Place. He's found family and community there, including his loving partner, Rena, who is in the room with us and here in support of him today. He came there first as a participant, and for the past 10 years, he's been an employee there. His single conviction from an event that occurred almost 20 years ago has not been repeated, does not reflect who he is now, and we hope you agree it should not continue to define and stigmatize him and limit his housing options. So we hope that you will therefore grant his pardon application. I know he's very nervous being here today and this morning. It's a very anxiety-producing situation, so I know there's some things he'd like to tell you, but with the board's permission, I would ask him some questions to guide him because I know he's anxious here, and I wanted to ask him to address particularly on the application. It said that he didn't remember exactly what happened. And when we spoke about that recently, Mr. Cummings, you told me that you tried to block it out and keep it in the shadows because you feel so much guilt and shame and embarrassment over what you did. And is that why you said you didn't remember exactly?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Can
Attorney
you tell?
Epstein?
Yes.
I'm sorry. If you're going to ask the question, won't you allow him to answer it instead of answering it for him and then him saying yes or no? Thanks.
Yes, certainly. Can you describe for the board what why you said you didn't remember exactly and what it was that happened, and briefly?
Well, basically I did because I blocked it out because of all the shame, guilt, fear, and disrespect that I caused the victim. And I didn't want to remember it. And I feel very remorse and shameful for what I've done.
Thank you.
And the court in that process had told you not to have any contact with your sister or your niece. Have you?
No, I have not had no contact with them ever.
Okay. And has anything like the events that caused your convictions, anything like that ever occurred since that time?
No, it has not.
And can you tell us why? What actions have you taken to ensure that that's the case?
Well, I've taken some classes like cognitive distortion, find alternatives to my moods, try to keep my mind occupied, and try to basically stay on the straight and narrow.
And when you think and talk about the events from 20 years ago, how do you feel about that now?
I feel ashamed, anxious, mad at myself, and I should have known better.
Can you tell the board also why it is that you were seeking a pardon? Why is that something that you're
Seeking pardon so I can advance my work preference, maybe find a better living situation, and maybe also to eventually follow my dreams, which is to open up a North Star Next Generation Technology company.
And is there any message, as you said, you have not had any contact with your family since then. Is there a message that you would want to share with them?
Yeah. Message is this: I'm very sorry for what I've done. I can't undo my actions. I cannot repair the wounds I've caused. I know it's going to be a long and probably permanent psychological and physical damaging even to their adulthood. And for that, I'm very sorry. And like I said, I should have made a better choice than what I did.
Thank you.
Thank
Do you
you.
have any questions that you would like?
Thank you, Attorney Epstein and Mr. Cummings. So I just want to state for the record that the state's attorney did object to your receiving an absolute pardon. I do actually have two questions, I believe. And one is when your application was submitted, you really and truly minimized responsibility for your actions, Mr. Cummings. And you made it seem as if the police pressured you into into saying, yes, I did it because they wouldn't leave you alone. Is that still your position here today?
No, it isn't.
Okay. And so you admit that you actually assaulted this
Yes.
child?
Yes.
Okay. Have you, I saw that in your application that you had a sexual harassment prevention. Is that right? Or was it supposed to be a sex offender kind of treatment?
I think it was a sex offender treatment.
Okay. And how long did you do that?
I did it for a few years. There was two phases, phase 1 and phase 2. Once you
Right.
complete phase 2, you were basically discharged, in which I completed both phases.
Okay. All right, thank you. Mr. Rodriguez, do you have any questions? You're muted, just so that you know.
No, Madam Chair, I don't.
Thank you. Ms. Palmieri?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. At this time, we are done with our questions. We're going to turn this hearing over to our victim's advocate for input. Good morning, Ms. Vasquez.
Good morning, board members. Ms. Berry, I had the opportunity to speak with the victim and their attorney, and at this time, they are going to let the board members make a decision for today's hearing, and they appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so I came into this hearing with with my position, but I'm going to allow my colleagues to tell me what they're thinking. I'll start with you, Ms. Palmieri.
Thank you. So I do look at the seriousness of the conviction, Madam Chair, and note that it does go back to 2009. Since that time, Mr. Cummings has participated in not only the outpatient treatment, but he was in a halfway house that also included some levels of treatment. He seems to have relocated himself to another part of the state. He has maintained employment now. Since 2016, engaged himself at the Fellowship House, not only as an employee, but taking part in their services there, which seems to be appropriate for Mr. Cummings. He had some letters of recommendation that talked about his change. I do think that housing is probably an issue for him, and this will help him with housing. Based on what I have reviewed in the file, I would be in favor of granting his pardon application today.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would concur with my colleague that he's in the right place for some services that he needs in Fellowship House and has been working there as well. And as we said, this was 2009 we're looking at. There hasn't been a reoccurrence of anything. I'm going to be supporting his part today as well.
Thank you. I move that Richard Leroy Cummings Jr. be granted a full and absolute pardon. Mr. Rodriguez?
Aye.
Ms. Palmieri?
Aye.
My vote is aye. Your pardon is granted. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you both all so much.
And a grant. I mean, I imagine that if that Scream character, the guy with the mask would show up to a hearing with the mask on and a bloody knife, with the attorney, Mr. Epstein, sitting next to him saying, my client feels very bad about being a mass murdering person. Grant him a parole. This board would grant. I mean, the only thing I think that might be the saving grace about this case is that this guy might as well have a sign on him that says Ch0m0. I mean, he is the poster child for what it looks like. If he comes to a playground and sits down on the bench without kids, I think that everybody would look up and say, this is not good. And that's the difference between him and the person who we saw before him. Both of them are the same. Both of them like little ones, but one is more dangerous than the other. The one that is more dangerous is the girl who shows up and says, I'm so sorry, I only meant to help. Because she doesn't have that Ch0m0 sign around her neck. Isn't it interesting the DA in this case said they do object? I wish I could know if it was the same DA. They say the state's attorney. Isn't that interesting? I don't know if you were able to hear Coco. He was barking, so I thought I'd bring him up. He can keep us he can keep us company while we talk. And I don't know if it is you haven't met Coco. It's my mother-in-law's puppy. And then she realized that she didn't want a puppy. So we happily jumped in and he's changed our life forever. It's so much fun. I've always wanted a dog my entire life. I was like, grew up with cats and we had a rabbit and an iguana. And we're a dog, and now we do. Um, I'm talking about growing up as a child, but Coco, Coco, Coco. So, where was I? Yes. I wonder if this state's attorney, if it's like the same person. And that's the thing. Again, I just want to say, like when I see this guy, I want to check the contents of his phone, of his computer. It's like every red flag in the world. And one's got to, I think what they were alluding to is that it was his niece. And here's another insane part. In his application for the pardon, he lied. He said he was innocent. He said he didn't do it. He said the police made him admit to it. The application isn't something that was filled out 20 years ago at the time of the crime. No, the application was filled out with probably in the last 3 months. They have these pardon hearings every like 3 months. I see, but what I see what they have before the pardon hearings is they have a review hearing. And I've never shown it to you because it's very, very it's administrative, but I've watched them. And what it is they get a list of applications and then and it's on it's I could show it to you if you want. You could go find it on their channel. It's on YouTube. And they go through the applications and they say, and they list it up and they say pardon or no pardon. And they give about 90% of them a pardon. And there's about 10% or less that we see here where they say, "Ugh, the pardon looks sketchy. We want to talk to them." So we're only, by the way, seeing the worst of the worst in these hearings. Just want to point out the ones that they just administratively pardon. It's crazy too. Okay, but we're only seeing the worst of the worst, the ones they feel they need to talk to, and those administrative hearings usually happen about like a few weeks or a month before the pardon hearings. So I know the application, I could even check and give you an exact date, but I'm a little lazy. But it's about, let's just say about, so 3 months ago he was innocent. And now today he shows up and he admits and they still grant. It's so easy to have said no. They could have said, you lied on the application. What made you change your mind from then until now? I mean, it's a brain dead, simple question. But they don't. And you know why? Not only do they not care about our children, or like I think it's a mix of things. And we'll do one more hearing after this. Another creepy one. This was creepy stuff. It like reeks like incel. But okay, so I mean this would be like incel too. Let's be real. I don't even want to insult incels actually by saying that. But the Coco, Coco. He looks at me like I have 3 heads. He's the funniest. Look at him. Okay. He always makes me laugh. So, what was I saying? Yeah, it's so easy. So they're agenda driven. The thing is, the state of Connecticut, they do have an agenda. It's driven by the governor who's elected, and this is the thing, it's like they believe that having a felony on someone's record is a huge hindrance, and they want to take that felony away. What it could be a great thing for many people who apply for it, but there is a bucket of people that when they grant the pardon, they are throwing any precursory, like they're throwing everything to the wind. This guy has the screen mask on. He's got a bloody knife, but he wants to open up an internet company. No, he's so special, right? He's so special, learning disabled. Again, they pull the learning disabled card, yet he wants to. It's like it's so insane. And again, as someone who took the short bus to school, who doesn't know what it's like to have a passing report card, who dropped out of high school, I take great offense to being when someone's called special. That's not special. He's a Ch0m0. They all are that way. They look that way. They talk that way. It's like cockroach. A cockroach could show up to these hearings and say, I am not a cockroach, I am a butterfly. And the pardon board would say, well, you put in the application that you're a cockroach and you look like a cockroach and you got like the cockroach thing going on. And he said, no, 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 no. The attorney Epstein would say, are you a cockroach? No, I am not a cockroach. Ah, okay, pardon. But you guys got to see it to believe it. You got to see it to believe it. And that's why we're here. Now we're going to go to see one more hearing. Let's jump in.
What happened on his very first date when he was 22 years old. To date, that has been his only date.
I was immature and inexperienced in relationships with women. The classmate who agreed to go with me on my first date was also young and inexperienced. I wanted to have a pleasurable first date with her, and I think she probably wanted to have the same thing with me. And I hope to gain the confidence to once again find a mate I can share my life with and build a family.
For the record, Jerome Pan representing William Warner, who's with me on screen. I'm going to make a brief statement, and then I know Mr. Warner would wish to address the court, or excuse me, the board. As some of you know, I've been doing this for quite a long time and have represented many people in these Board of Pardon hearings. And it's been my experience that each one of them has a very individual and important story behind their situation. Will Warner, however, while he also has an interesting situation, is in my experience rather unique. Every other pardon application that I can think of the dozens I've done, especially if they had a lapse of time, of a great period of time, as has happened here between the crime and the pardon, managed to get past their conviction and move forward with their lives. Will Warner is unique in that he is still punishing himself for his crime. He's had great difficulty getting past the crime itself. He has, and that's despite accomplishments. He managed to continue his college education. This happened when he was a junior in college. He graduated from college. He there with a degree in legal studies. He tried to get jobs, was largely unsuccessful in getting anything that would match his skills and his education, and instead was relegated to largely menial jobs that gave him no reward. Contrast that to him before this incident happened. He was in the military, and as I know you saw in his application, that he was very proud of that. And I knew him shortly after this incident happened. I've known him since and remained in communication with him throughout the years from time to time. And he lost a huge part of himself after this incident happened. And in my opinion, knowing him more than from just representing him in this pardon, or indeed back at the incident itself, but in the years between, he's never recovered that sense of purpose, that sense of a person that he once had. He has tried. He has been in counseling. He has successfully completed his sex offender probation. He's done everything that he needed to do. He was never, ever in trouble with the law prior to the evening that this incident happened. And he hasn't been in trouble with the law since then. Yet he's still stuck. He wants to get past his own prison that he's locked himself in. And we are both hoping, Will and I, that the granting of a pardon by the state that once convicted him, now saying, you've earned a pardon, will help him get past his own guilt and remorse. He feels terrible about what happened because, as we documented, and he'll address a little bit more in his application, what happened on his very first date when he was 22 years old. To date, that has been his only date. He has not been able to get past his own guilt and remorse for this situation. We are hoping that you will grant this pardon so he can move forward with his life, get better jobs, continue with his education, which he's seriously considering doing. And we're asking that you grant the pardon. I'll turn it over to Will now.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. Just be mindful of the fact that we have your statement in your that you put in with your application. We're trying to keep the remarks brief because we have 38 cases to get to today.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'll try to get through this as briefly as I
Thank you.
can. This will just take a couple minutes, and please bear with me. I'm rather nervous, and thank you for letting me speak. I was once a proud soldier. I took upon me the Army values of loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. I failed to live up and to uphold these values. I failed so, and I am ashamed. When this incident took place that led to my arrest and eventual guilty pleas, I was a young 22-year-old college junior. I was immature and inexperienced in relationships with women. The classmate who agreed to go with me on my first date was also young and inexperienced. I wanted to have a pleasurable first date with her, and I think she probably wanted to have the same thing with me. And unfortunately, we are both disappointed. I am deeply sorry and regret not only that I disappointed her, but more importantly, that I hurt her and caused her so much pain and suffering. I didn't mean for that to happen. And one day, I hope she will heal enough to forgive me. To me, the Army was not only a job, but a calling. My naive, blundering actions that night caused the loss of my military career, but a career I miss to this day. And I hope that with a pardon, I may be able to salvage some of my career by being re-enlisting in the Army Reserve. In the years since my conviction, I continued my education, earning a bachelor's degree in legal studies, opening a path to law school and a potential career as a lawyer. Despite my education, being a convicted felon has limited my employment possibilities to low-wage jobs without career opportunities. A pardon would facilitate my educational and career goals. I am now a 36-year-old man and more mature, but still carry the humiliation of being a convicted felon. That disgrace hinders my ability to engage in my meaningful interpersonal relationships with women. Despite years of personal therapy and counseling, I lack confidence and feel inadequate as a man worthy of a relationship with a woman. I hope that being granted a pardon will help me overcome my lack of confidence so that I can once again stand tall as a man of honor, worthy of respect, honor, and kindness. This is the end. I hope to gain the confidence to once again find a mate who I can share my life with and build a family. I thank you for letting me speak and listening to me, and I humbly ask that you grant me a pardon. Thank you, members of the board.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. Are there questions from board members?
Yes.
Board Member Barry.
Thank you, Sir Chair. So, Mr. Warner, I appreciate the statement. I was wondering if you participated in any sex offender treatment when you were on probation.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And how long was that program and where did you do it?
It was 1 year and 2 months, ma'am.
And where did you complete the program?
I can't remember what it was in Torrington, Connecticut.
Okay. And what did you learn in that program?
We learned quite a few different things to be respectful to women. It's some of the things I already put in my application, to be more open to women, communicate with them, to pay attention to what they're saying, how they're reacting to your language, to be respectful, to ask for permission before engaging in physical contact, just
Right.
ask for permission.
I appreciate that information, Mr. Warner, because your victim in this case, when you did ask her, you asked, but she said no. And so now you understand that no means exactly that, right? That regardless of how far, excuse me, regardless of how far, thank you, things have gone, when the person says no, that's what it is. And so I appreciate your sharing with us what you've learned. Aside from the treatment that you've participated in, we also look for stability in the community. So are you currently working?
No, ma'am.
So who takes care of you? Or how do you care for yourself?
My parents, they're helping me.
Okay. And so I see that you are residing with your parents. When was the last time you actually had a job?
It's been quite a while.
And when was the last time you applied for a job?
It's definitely been quite a while, and it's
What's quite a while?
over 6 months.
And what was the place? What was the name of the employer the place that you were seeking employment?
I'm drawing a blank at this time.
Yeah. Because our records indicate that your last job was in when COVID transpired. Is that right? Or I see 2022. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
And so I'm just curious to know, how do you get the things that you need? I mean, your mother buys your deodorant and pays for your haircuts and all that stuff. Do you receive any type of disability, anything from the Army, any kind of?
I didn't stay in long
compensation?
enough to get benefits, and I also get SNAP benefits.
Okay, so you receive state assistance and you get state medical.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Sir Chair.
Anything further?
I have no questions.
Board Member Barry, your thoughts?
Initially, I was opposed to Mr. Warner receiving an absolute pardon because of the nature of this crime. But I looked back yesterday over the information, and I didn't like the wording of his original application where he was denied a few years back. But it does seem as if he has been able to stay on the straight and narrow. I'm happy that he has the support of his family, because a lot of people just simply don't have that. And he is still fairly young. So, and this was an isolated incident, and I would be in support of his application for a pardon.
Board Member Sosakis?
I agree.
In regard to William Gabriel Warner, I move to grant a full and absolute pardon. Board Member Barry.
Aye.
Board Member Sosakis.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, and the pardon is granted.
Okay. And we just saw another one. We saw another one, and we'll go over this, actually a detailed article on everything that happened. So we'll go over that. But again, let's just look at this situation. It's crazy to think. He's living in his mother's basement. He's on SNAP benefits. He's done nothing with his life since then. He has this story about how he wants to be an attorney, and this is stopping, which is BS. I mean, you could still go through school. You can do everything you need to do and wait to pass the bar, which was such an easy counter to that. Say, well, did you get all, are you ready to take the bar? And it's, I mean, it's a little overwhelming. It's like, where do you start? Again, I think that he might fit under that bucket, right? Of the, like, I don't think he's a Ch0m0. I actually, and I'll share with you. I read the article. I think he is just like a super awkward individual. Maybe he's not even dangerous again. And I may, I'll read it to you, and this might help. This might help you, but you don't need to pardon someone. Also, you know that they have, in all of these cases, they have the option to grant a certificate of employability. So let me play with you the powers that they have, and how what they announce at the beginning of every hearing.
The people of the state of Connecticut have vested the Board of Pardons and Paroles with extraordinary power to grant pardons for convictions in the state. The board may grant an absolute pardon or a certificate of employability. An absolute pardon, if granted, may result in the complete erasure of your record of criminal convictions in the state. The board may, in some cases, deny an absolute pardon and instead grant a certificate of employability to a person it feels is not suitable for an absolute pardon. In such cases, the board is making a statement that the person is suitable for employment at this time. In considering whether to grant a pardon, the board looks at, among other things, the nature and seriousness of the crime, its impact on any victim, the length of time that has elapsed since the commission of the crime, and any and all efforts the applicant has made to become a productive, contributing member of his or her community.
So you see, like in any of these cases, they could have even said, here's a certificate of employability, but instead they want to expunge their record in full. And I don't know what my point is there. I guess my point is, again, it's certain people have a right to know. Not that much time has passed in these hearings, and giving someone a full pardon just because is so bizarre. And this was creepy. I mean, this was, think about the words they use. It makes me wonder, like, does an attorney not read over your letter and say, maybe you shouldn't say in your letter the incident that happened? I hope to find confidence to find a mate. Using the word mate. He said mate. I want to find a mate. And we both wanted a pleasurable first date. It's like, I use the word incel again. It's kind of what I imagine, right? And this is not going to help him. This is not going to make a difference. But again, I don't feel like it's dangerous like the other ones. The other ones we saw, I feel like, are incredibly dangerous. At least 3 of them or 4 of them. But I don't like, this is, let me read this to you so you can see all the details. So she was 17, he was 22. This is how it happened. William, 22, of Ch0m0 was arraigned Superior Court, where Judge Hiri Strackbine declined to authorize removal of the electronic bracelet. He's in the military reserves, his attorney said. He can't work the job with the monitor on because it interferes with his uniform. Warner has been monitored because he posted $10,000 bail on the time of October 21st arrest by the Central Connecticut State University Police. He was a student at the time of September 9th incident, although he had since left the school and had been ordered by the court not to return. He was charged with first-degree SA and second-degree unlawful restraint. Strackbine said that while she's not prepared to take the bracelet off, Warner may go to appointments with his lawyer and doctors, including those Massachusetts therapists. Warner has no criminal record, scheduled to return February 14th. According to the arrest warrant, the student told police that she was bored in her dorm room the night of September 9th because all of her friends went home for the weekend. She said she called Warner and asked if he wanted to come over and watch television. So I could already envision it. You could tell he's socially awkward. You could tell that he probably thought in his head, "Oh my God, it's happening. It's happening. It's happening. She invited me over," and he's nervous. And he's maybe talking to his friends, and her friends are like, "Yeah, you're gonna, go, bro, yeah." And he's like, "Well, like I could already see it. Like he's just totally socially awkward, has no idea what's going on." She had met him the week earlier, and she told investigators. Now, when Warner laid down next to her on her bed, she got up and sat down in a chair to keep some distance between them, the warrant says. When he asked her to make out with him, she told him no. Later, when Warner got off the bed, she went there to lay down again. Warner, who was 6'2" and 240 pounds, climbed over her and began rubbing her back and playing with her hair, she told police. That made her uncomfortable, so she jumped out of the bed and began moving around the room. It is terrifying. Warner approached her and said he wanted to kiss her, and she told him no. William then laid her down on the bed and tried to get on top of her. She brought her knees up to her chest to stop him, the warrant states. She told police that he wrapped his legs and then placed his arm around her, preventing her from going anywhere. He then began to essay her in different ways, the warrant states, causing her pain. She told police she was paralyzed with fear. Warner's story wasn't much different. He told police that the student had taken a shower while he was there, changed her clothes in front of him, making no attempt to hide from his view when she was partially nude, the warrant states. He told them she leaned closer to him when he was touching her and never told him to stop. But after the essay contact, he told police she got very quiet and he realized that things were not going well. The warrant states that police were concerned that Warner had some sort of learning disability and invited him to call his parents or lawyer before they started talking, and he didn't take them up on the offer. Look, again, I could be wrong, but I do think it's just someone who has no social cues. He didn't continue and complete his task. I think he is just a very, very, very socially awkward person who was probably the very first time in his life in this situation, and he thought something was happening that wasn't. I mean, it's just my guess. I could be wrong. It doesn't mean he doesn't need to get arrested and catch his, I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying I don't. It's like he just. It's not an excuse. I wanted to make that very clear. But I don't think in his mind he thought he was doing something wrong. I think in his mind he thought that this is what a man does, and he didn't read the cues, and he read the signals wrong, and da 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 da. But who knows? It's probably, I think, the least dangerous of all the cases we saw, but nonetheless, super creepy. Like super creepy. Anyways, that's it. If you want to see more of these pardon hearings, I do have a playlist for it. And let me know in the comment section again if you want to see them. Otherwise, I don't know if you want to see them. I don't know to show it to you. So let me know. If you want to see more of Coco, let me know. Right, Coco? Coco. 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 He's so funny. Okay. I promise you he's real. He's not a stuffed animal. Anyways, with that, I'll let you go.
Saw that someone was in need and I felt like I needed to help her. And obviously a boundary was crossed and I really never meant to cross that boundary at all. But because again,
Well, when you say that she needed help and you tried to help her, helping her turned into your taking advantage of her.
yes, and I didn't.
And yeah.
I understand.
Okay.